Japan is considered one of the safest developed countries in the world. It boasts one of the lowest homicide rates in the world, according to the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. But in the year 1988 to 1989, the residents of Japan had a great fear, because of one particular person named Tsutomu Miyazaki. Before we dive into this story, I would like to send my condolences to the bereaved family of Masami Yoshizawa, Mari Kono, Erika Namba and Ayako Nemoto, who were victims of Devil's Act. Tsutomu Miyazaki was born on 21 August 1962 in Itsukaichi, Tokyo, the eldest son of a wealthy family. He was born premature and had a rare birth defect that caused his hand joints to be fused together, preventing him from being able to bend his wrists upwards. Miyazaki's family operated a regional newspaper company and were well known in Itsukaichi, where his grandfather and great-grandfather had served on the town council. Due to his parents being busy, he was mainly raised by his grandfather and an intellectually disabled man the family hired as a nanny. Miyazaki was ostracized when he attended elementary school due to his deformity, and consequently kept to himself. He attended Maidai Nakano High School in Nakano, a prestigious high school associated with Meiji University, and was a star student until his grades began to drop dramatically. He was ranked 40 out of 56 in his class and did not receive the customary admission to Meiji University for students of the school. Instead of studying English and becoming a teacher as he originally intended, Miyazaki attended a local junior college and studied to become a photography technician. In the mid-1980s, Miyazaki moved back into his parents' house in Itsukaichi, sharing a room with his elder sister. Although his family was highly influential in Itsukaichi, he expressed no desire to take over their business. After his arrest, Miyazaki would say that what he really craved was being listened to about his problems, but believed that his parents, more worried about the material than the sentimental, would not have heard him. He would have been ignored. In the same confession, he said that by this period in his life he had begun to consider suicide. Miyazaki felt he only received support from his grandfather, to whom he was close, and was rejected by his two younger sisters. In May 1988, Miyazaki's grandfather died, which served to deepen his depression and isolate him even further. In an attempt to retain something from him, Miyazaki ate part of his grandfather's ashes. A few weeks later, one of Miyazaki's sisters caught him watching her while she was taking a shower. He attacked her when she told him to leave. When his mother learned of the incident and demanded that he spend more time working and less time with his videotapes, he attacked her as well. Between August 1988 and June 1989, Miyazaki mutilated and murdered 4 girls between the ages of 4 and 7, and sexually molested their corpses. He drank the blood of one victim and ate a part of her hand. These crimes, which prior to Miyazaki's apprehension were named the Little Girl Murders, and later the Tokyo Saitama serial kidnapping murders of little girls. Tokyo Saitama Renzoku Yojo Yukai Satsujin Jikan, shocked Saitama Prefecture, which had few crimes against children. On the 22nd of August 1988, one day after Miyazaki's 26th birthday, Mari Kono, aged 4, vanished while playing at a friend's house. Miyazaki had led Kono into his black Nissan Langley, then drove westward of Tokyo and parked the car under a bridge in a wooded area. There, he sat alongside Kono for half an hour before murdering her and molesting her corpse. He dumped her body in the hills near his home, departing with her clothes, then allowed the body to decompose before returning to remove her hands and feet, which he kept in his closet. Miyazaki burned Kono's remaining bones in his furnace, ground them into powder, and sent them to her family in a box along with several of her teeth, photos of her clothes, and a postcard which read, Mari. Bones. Cremated. Investigate. Prove. Kono's hands and feet were found in Miyazaki's closet after his arrest almost a year later. On October 3, 1988, Miyazaki abducted Masami Yoshizawa, aged 7, after spotting her while driving along a rural road. He had offered Yoshizawa a ride, which she accepted. Then drove her to the same place he had killed Kono. Miyazaki killed Yoshizawa, engaged in sexual acts with her corpse, and took her clothes with him when he departed. 2 months later, on the 12th of December 1988, he abducted Erika Namba, aged 4, as she was returning home from a friend's house. Miyazaki forced her into his car and drove to a parking lot in Nagori, where he forced her to remove her clothes in the back seat and began to take pictures of her. He killed Namba, tied her hands and feet behind her back, covered her with a bedsheet, and placed her body in his car's trunk. He disposed of her clothes in a wooded area and left her body in the adjacent parking lot, where it was discovered 3 days later. On the 20th of December, Namba's family received a postcard sent by Miyazaki with a message assembled using words cut out of magazines. Erika. Cold. Cough. Throat. Rest. Death. On June 6, 1989, Miyazaki convinced Ayako Nomoto, aged 5, to allow him to take pictures of her. He then led Nomoto into his car and murdered her, covered her corpse with a bedsheet and placed her in his trunk. Miyazaki took the corpse into his apartment and spent the next 2 days engaging in sexual acts with it, taking photos and videos of the remains in various positions. When Nomoto's corpse began to decompose, Miyazaki dismembered it, abandoning her torso in a cemetery and her head in the nearby hills. He kept her hands, drinking blood from and cannibalizing them, fearing that the police would find Nomoto's body parts. Miyazaki returned to the cemetery and the hills 2 weeks later and carried the remains back to his apartment, where he hid them in his closet. On the 23rd of July 1989, Miyazaki saw 2 sisters playing in a park in Hachioji and managed to separate the younger of the sisters from the older one, who stayed behind. He was taking photographs of the younger daughter, whom he had convinced to strip naked, when he was caught by their father, who attacked Miyazaki but was unable to restrain him. After fleeing on foot, Miyazaki eventually returned to the park to retrieve his car, whereupon he was arrested by police responding to a call by the father. A search of his 2-room bungalow produced 5,763 videotapes, some containing anime and slasher films, later used as reasoning for his crimes. Interspersed among them was video footage and photos of his victims. Miyazaki, who retained a perpetually calm and collected demeanor during his trial, appeared indifferent to his capture. Miyazaki's trial began on 30 March 1990. Often talking nonsensically, he blamed his actions on Ratman, an alter ego who he claimed forced him to kill. He spent time during the trial drawing Ratman in cartoon form. Miyazaki's father refused to pay for his son's legal defense and died by suicide in 1994. The 7-year trial focused on Miyazaki's mental state at the time of the murders. Under Japanese law, people of unsound minds are not subject to punishment, and people with cognitive disabilities are entitled to reduced sentences. 3 teams of court-appointed expert psychiatrists came to differing conclusions about Miyazaki's ability to tell right from wrong. One team determined him to have a cognitive disability while another team concluded that he was schizophrenic, the other that he had multiple personality disorder. A third team found that although Miyazaki had a personality disorder, he was still capable of taking responsibility for his actions. The Tokyo District Court judged Miyazaki aware of the magnitude and consequences of his crimes and therefore accountable. He was sentenced to death on April 14, 1997. His death sentence was upheld by both the Tokyo High Court, on June 28, 2001, and the Supreme Court of Justice on January 17, 2006. Miyazaki described his serial murders as an act of benevolence. Minister of Justice Kunio Hatoyama signed Miyazaki's death warrant on June 17, 2008, and he was hanged at the Tokyo detention house that same day. Yuzo Sake said his trial was long, and that he was not willing to criticize Hatoyama. Thank you for watching. For more crime stories, kindly hit like, share and subscribe to this channel.